it was wild. I was in a briefing with a bunch of high-ranking admirals within the Navy, and they were talking to us about, some of the funding they needed, for our fleet. And there were a couple conservatives in this meeting, and it was actually in the skiff under the Capitol, in a secret, compartmentalized space. And they were talking to us about this funding that they needed. And many of the conservatives were like, "Hey, we get it, Admiral. We're all about helping you fund the fleet. But what we're not all about is a lot of the DEI stuff that's going on. And can you talk to us a little bit about that and how much you guys are spending on those type of programs?" And I kid you not, every single one of them, because many of them are, ticket punchers who are more concerned about their own careers than they are about the strength and the focus of the military, looked at us and said, "Hey, diversity is our strength." It was almost like they were just reading off the talking points from the Department of Defense. And it was so disappointing to see. I'm not really surprised, but that in many ways, that was just a reflection of what our military had become.
Okay, that's Congressman from Arizona and former Navy SEAL Eli Crane speaking on a right-wing podcast just a few months ago in April about how when Admiral said diversity is our strength, he scoffed. You could hear the interviewer like giggling about how ridiculous, and they're just parroting DoD talking points. Well, here's the thing. I'm a West Point grad. I attended West Point starting in 1983. My first roommate was a black guy from Minnesota. It was an experience for a kid from Kirkwood, Missouri that was unlike anything else. And what we learned in those very early days was that an all-volunteer force had to represent the United States it represented, right? The society it represents. A military has to represent society that is fighting for. That means a diverse military, just like a diverse society. We were told then, I've heard the term diversity is our strength since I was a dumb cadet at West Point. So the idea somehow that people like Eli Crane are saying it's new and some libtard liberal talking point is complete horseshit. But there's actually proof that it's horseshit and proof that he's a hypocrite. Not that matters. I want you to watch this video because this is just 2 months later. Same guy. Now watch what he's talking about, and you'll appreciate why I find him full of it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise in proud recognition of the Hopi Code Talkers to honor their extraordinary contributions during World War II. At a time when the free world stood on the brink of destruction, 10 courageous Hopi men answered the call and helped turn the tide of world history. Using their native language, these legendary warriors relayed critical intelligence during combat, creating an unbreakable line of communication that helped give America the upper hand. They served valiantly with the U.S. Army's 81st Wildcat Division and the 5th Air Force, shielding vital operations and saving countless lives. This week, members of the Hopi tribe are hosting their annual event honoring their important legacies. On behalf of all Americans, we're grateful for the heroic effort of the Hopi Code Talkers. Thank you, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Okay. I mean, aside from the fact he could barely read the statement his staff clearly wrote for him, I'm confused. I was convinced that diversity was not the strength of the military, but he's highlighting Native American warriors who stepped up during World War II to use their native language as code that saved countless lives throughout the Pacific theater. So which is it, Eli? Is diversity not our strength, or is diversity key to helping win World War II? And that's why I find guys like him who have served in uniform and then smear the values that we started working for so disgraceful. But it gets better. The race for 2026 has already begun. And that includes an opponent that's already run one. You guys know, if you watch the show often, I love second-time candidates. And that guy is former Navajo Nation President Jonathan Nez, also served in the County Council Board of Supervisors, local Board of Supervisors. I've been eager to get Jonathan in the hot seat for a while. I'm Fred Wellman, host of On Democracy with FP Wellman, right here on the MeidasTouch Network. And this is In the Hot Seat with Jonathan Nez. So let's bring him on my screen. This is Jonathan Nez. Jonathan, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here, sir. It's an exciting time to be running for office, isn't it?
Right. And I just want to say, Fred, Yate, which means greetings in the Navajo language. And last week was National Navajo Code Talkers Day. And, you know, we're talking about diversity. You know, this country is strong because of its diversity. And, you know, I think military leaders and elected leaders have said before that if it wasn't for the code talkers, the indigenous code talkers, we may have lost many of the battles and maybe even lost World War II. So I honored them today on your show too. And I also honor all the veterans who have served this great country of ours.
And as I've mentioned before, you know, I was actually, I've studied quite a bit. Native Americans, Indigenous Americans serve in the military disproportionately to their population. That many have stepped up and served, including the code talkers. But to this day, many of our service members are from the Native Americans, and it matters a lot. You know, and along those lines, you know, I've actually known Eli Crane for a decade or so. You know, you ran once already. Now you're back in the fight again. Why did you decide to go ahead and run again and step back? It's, you know, I always say it's an act of courage to run for office, and now you're doing it a second time. You know, what is driving you to go back in the breach and fight for Arizona again?
That's a great question, Fred. And, you know, look at what's happening in this country right now. Hardworking Americans are feeling the pain of these disastrous policies that are coming out of Washington, D.C. and through coming out from the White House. You know, healthcare is being taken away from hardworking Americans. Even our healthcare facilities are going to be closing down. Budget cuts. You know, if I may, Fred, the big bad ugly bill that was rammed through Congress and signed into law, you know, was the last straw for me. And I'm a fighter as well. You know, I mean, we have some great leaders in my family, warriors in my family. And, you know, my dad would always say to warrior up in times of difficulty. And this was not a time where I would bow out of politics and say, oh, I got beat. You know, of course, you got to lick your wounds, dust yourself off, and fight even harder. And once that passage of the big ugly bill went through, you know, I was like, you know what? We got to continue our fight, and we got to continue to protect our democracy. And that was one of the reasons why, you know, I'm back in the race. My wife, my family, and I are wanting to, you know, serve once again, you know, this district. And, you know, matter of fact, my opponent, Eli Crane, he doesn't even live in this district. Fred, he don't even live in this district. He lives an hour away from the southern part of this district. And, you know, folks have said that we need somebody that actually grew up and is still here in this district. You know, of course, you can investigate my lineage. I think I can call a true native Arizonan. And, you know, I was born here in this district. I lived here, went to school in the district, and served over 20 plus years in this district. And I'm not going away. And, you know, I think that's what the folks in this district deserve, someone that actually knows the issues in this state of Arizona and in our area.
You know, and that's the key. And it is a giant district, right? It's a huge district. You know, I know I was looking at, you know, we were getting ready to have our conversation. I was looking at it. It is one of the frustrations I hear a lot when I talk to candidates who are running is the existing representative, the elected member of Congress isn't doing that representative part, are they? And you mentioned it briefly. He doesn't even live in the district. How are you actually in the district interacting and representing the people you're supposed to be elected by if you don't even in the district? I mean, that's something. Are you hearing that a lot as you wander the district? It's a giant district.
Absolutely. It's 60% of the state of Arizona.
Wow.
And out of the 22 tribes here, 14 of them are in this district. And, you know, I've visited much of this district from Kayenta, Arizona on the Navajo Nation to White Mountain Apache, down even to the city of Maricopa, Globe, and into Yavapai County, Prescott Valley. And, you know, there are a lot of frustration. Of course, frustration with what's going on coming out of Washington, D.C. But I think, you know, people deserve someone that will fight for them and not just bow down to the billionaires or the people who voted for them.
And that leads us to the issue that is on a lot of minds. I've had a lot of interviews with candidates and actual elected representatives, and affordability just keeps coming up over and over. And it isn't just the price of like meat today or eggs. There's a crisis for average Americans just trying to make ends meet right now. I mean, is that what you're seeing in your district? And is that a priority for you?
Fred, you know, my son's birthday, 10 years old today. I went over to the local supermarket and I was just blown away to see the prices going up, and some of those packages are getting smaller as well.
Yeah,
and
shrinkflation, they call that.
And many of our people in this district see that, you know, high prices in goods and services and how that's going to be affected. You know, my wife and I, we help out with the food bank here, and you see a lot more people getting the help, the support needed, not a handout, but a hand up. And there's many people in this district all across the country that need a hand up. And, you know, we see Washington, D.C., you know, that I know folks campaign saying that they want to get out of the swamp, but the swamp is still there, Fred. And, you know, even my opponent right now, he's right in the middle of all this chaos that's coming out of the White House. And, you know, we just need folks to recognize that we need a fighter in Congress, and Congress should look like America in diversity. You know, you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
You know, and I would bring a different perspective to Congress. And I've always said too that they have yet to hear a voice like mine, a voice like ours from rural America, rural Arizona, and a tribal member as well.
And that point, you guys are also on the front line of the immigration issue, right? I mean, I live in Missouri. For a lot of folks, they don't live actually on a border state. Everybody likes to say, oh, the Republicans like to say every state's a border state now, but you guys truly are. You know the truth about that. You have a huge Latino population. You know, much of that goes through Native American lands, as you mentioned. You know, this is much more than just securing those who live there. It's much more than just securing the border, isn't it? We have a much larger problem than just the border being porous, isn't there?
Right. You know, and we need to give the resources needed to the folks that are securing our border. But at the same time, you know, folks should be able to come in. And as we have said in history books, people come from all over the world to be a part of the American dream. But yet indigenous peoples in this country, we've been here since time immemorial. And I don't even think we've got invited to the American dream. So, you know, sometimes you just gotta grab it. And, you know, there's a lot of opportunities for people. And that's our strength in this country, is our diversity. And people should be able to come in. But of course, keeping the bad actors out, but also allowing people to come in this country. And you can see what's happening with the immigration policies right now. You know, you have fields in our area in Southern California, all in the Southwest, where produce is rotten because of, you know, people are scared of masked men, deportation, or even just not wanting to work because they fear for their lives. And, you know, that needs to change there for sure. But of course, we got to bring the resources needed into this region so that there could be a shorter process to bring in, to have citizenship here, and of course to keep the bad actors out, the drugs out. And, you know, we can all do that working together. And it's not about Democrats or Republicans or independents. It's about all of us. And in Navajo, we say 5-finger beans. You know, we're all human beings, and we should be able to be safe in our neighborhoods, and of course embrace diversity in this country.
I love it. Well, you've got a heck of a fight in your hands. You know that. You've done it before. You've got a giant district to traverse and get around, but you've made a splash. I know you started off strong. Where could people find out more information about your campaign? Maybe throw you a buck from the Meidas Mighty. How's the best place to follow you?
Right. We appreciate the support from many people. Our website is jonathannez.com. Come and join us. Come and join the fight. Let's all warrior up together, and let's take back our country from all this division, the hatred, and just go back to working together. You know, Fred, I worked together for across the aisle as president of the Navajo Nation. I actually had a vice president that was a Republican, and we were able to work together so that we can bring resources back. And again, I want to emphasize this is not a handout. This is a hand up. And, you know, we want to make sure that our tax paying dollars that we send to Washington, D.C. come back into our communities to improve the quality of life and to offer, you know, affordable health care, affordable child care, and, you know, bring those costs of goods and services down.
Well, I love it. Great to hear from you. It's finally so good to finally meet you and get you in front of the Meidas Mighty and learn more about you. Best luck. Be sure to stay in touch, and we keep up the fight.
All right, let's warrior up.
Let's do it. Thanks. Another great conversation here in the hot seat with Jonathan Nez. The size, the scale of a district is this, like most of the state of Arizona, is hard to wrap your head around. But Jonathan knows it. He's lived there. He's his whole life. He's from there. We wish him the best of luck. More of these hot seats coming with great folks like Jonathan and others. If you haven't checked them all out, they're right here on the MeidasTouch Network. I hope you'll check them out. They're going up periodically. We've got much more to come. As always, find us on the usual On Democracy with FP Wellman every Friday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, right here on the MeidasTouch Network. I'm so glad this week's an exciting one. I've got Congressman Greg Landsman joining us. There's just so much to do. So again, follow us right here on the MeidasTouch Network. I'm proud to be part of it. I'm Fred Wellman. We'll see you again soon.